Hello, this is Jacob Hawkins, and I am presenting on the first interactive advanced concept presentation for General Chemistry 1. So a little bit of background on what we're doing today. So we are going to do a simple experiment to demonstrate the concept of ions and ionic bonding. So what is an ion? An ion is an atom or molecule that has a net electrical charge. That means it's either positive or negative. So remember that atoms are made up of different subatomic particles. So in the nucleus of the atom, you have protons, which are positively charged, and then neutrons, which are neutral. And then in the outer shell of the atom, you have electrons, which are negatively charged. Now, when we think of atoms, we're typically thinking of the protons and the electrons being equal, which means that they have an overall neutral charge. However, what most often happens is electrons will either be lost or gained, and that will then turn the atom into an ion. So cations are positively charged ions, which means that they have essentially lost an electron or multiple electrons, and then they have an overall positive charge. Whereas anions have gained an electron or multiple electrons, and then their overall charge has become negative. So just a quick kind of overview of the periodic table. Nonmetals are more likely to be anions, whereas metals are more likely to become cations. And then ionic bonding is a type of chemical bonding that involves attraction between those oppositely charged ions. So essentially, the positively charged ion is attracted to the negatively charged ion because of that difference between them. So the way that we're going to demonstrate this today is with a simple experiment. What we're going to do is mix table salt with ground pepper. And then we're going to take a balloon and we're going to charge it up with static electricity by just rubbing it really vigorously against a head of hair. And what that'll do is that'll add a slight negative charge to the balloon. We'll then hold that balloon over the salt and pepper mixture and then see what happens. So the way that I've organized this is I have two videos from kind of different angles of the same experiment. So we'll go ahead and we'll watch those, and then we will kind of debrief and then explain maybe, explain what happened and then maybe theorize why it happened towards the end of the presentation. Hello, my name is Jacob Hawkins, and here I am doing the first experiment for our interactive advanced concept presentation. So just to remind everyone what the kind of protocol is, we have some salt. I have here in my little salt shaker and some pepper. And then I have a balloon and for the audience, a plate. And what we'll be doing is I'm going to be rubbing the balloon against my hair to create some static electricity. I'll have some salt and some pepper, and then when we kind of lower the balloon down, we're going to see what's going to happen with those two things, the salt and the pepper. So I've already practiced this a few times, and I was kind of impressed with what happened. And my room is now thoroughly covered in salt and pepper. But what I'm going to do is we'll make two videos, one from this view to kind of see like well, I won't spoil it, but kind of what happens, and then I'll switch the view so that you can actually kind of like see a little bit more up close and personal the plate with the salt and pepper. So let me... My balloon escaped for me. We will make a little mixture here. So I've got the salt that I'm adding first to my plate. All right, now the pepper. I'm trying to kind of make this in equal proportions. Okay, so there is my plate of salt and pepper, if we can see a little bit from that angle. All right, and it's nice and dry. I'm out of state in Arizona right now, and it's super dry here, and I think that probably helps the experiment a little bit because when I do this and rub the balloon against my hair, I think it helps generate that static electricity. You'll kind of see here. Now look at that. Not a lot of moisture here in the air. Okay, so hopefully that's nice and good, and now my hair looks crazy. All right, and we'll see if you can kind of see. So I'm going to lower this. And look at that. So what's happening is it looks like the pepper is kind of clinging to the balloon and it's rising up, whereas the salt is sticking to the plate. And now is a good time to kind of break. So we'll switch to the other view so we can kind of, you know, get a little bit of a better view of the, like actually what's happening on the plate. So stay tuned for part 2. All right, so here is the same process, but from just a slightly different angle, so you can actually kind of see the plate as, you know, the magic happens. So I've got my balloon over here, and let's just watch. So I've thoroughly charged this balloon up with, you know, static electricity by rubbing it up against my hair, and now I'm just gonna lower it and see what happens. Yeah, that's a great shot. So as you can see, so the salt is completely staying on the plate, whereas the pepper is just glomming onto that thing. And I mean, you can see like a few stray flakes of salt, but I really think that that's, you know, it's the pepper that's kind of rising up and maybe just a few stray kind of salt bits because they're nice and chunky are getting stuck there as well. But yeah, still, you can just see the salt kind of, or the pepper kind of flying there. So that's pretty cool. All right, so to summarize this experiment, as we all saw, it appeared that the ground pepper kind of, you know, flew up to the balloon and really clung to it, whereas the salt, for the most part, kind of just remained on the plate. Now, when I first did this, what I thought must be happening is that the ground pepper must be much more positively charged, whereas the salt must be much more negatively charged, and that's why the pepper is, you know, flying up to the negatively charged balloon, whereas the salt is kind of remaining on the plate. But I actually looked into it, and it turns out that's not what's happening. So both the salt and the pepper apparently have a slightly positive charge. They're both attracted to the negative charge of the balloon, but ultimately what's happening is that the pepper is much lighter in weight and is able to travel up to the balloon, whereas the salt is much heavier and kind of stays in place. But I did think that the experiment was overall interesting. I definitely didn't think it was going to be so, you know, visual and that it was going to be so apparent, you know, the forces that were in play, because it was very a dramatic effect that that pepper kind of flew through the air so quickly and so with so much force. But I enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing everyone else's presentations. In terms of citations, I really just kind of pulled information from our course and from our general chemistry textbook.